Yay. Dames en heren, welkom bij een nieuwe aflevering van Ministerie van Animatie en Film. Vandaag Vandaag hebben wij een gast in digitale vorm. We hebben onze allereerste Zoom podcast. Dat komt niet door corona, maar dat komt gewoon omdat Alex mensenschuw is. I just said that you just don't like people. So you hate people, and that's why you hate people, and that's why you're online. It's not anything to do with corona or even curfews or stuff like that. So Alex,
you wouldn't want to catch the British variant, would you? So you've got to keep me away.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's really bad. Like the jingles, like a really bad radio show. Alex Dowding, nice to have you on the show. Thank you for taking the invite.
It's really beautiful to see you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe a short introduction how we met.
Gosh, yeah. So you're really pushing the limits of my memory now. So
yeah.
We met through Alexander Boer. Didn't we?
Exactly. Yeah, we met in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
He was working on an animation series, and he needed someone. We needed someone to give us a push in the right direction or something for planning and production wise. Yeah.
And I remember now you're pushing my memory. It's falling into place now. We met at Cafe Tyson. I remember because I was waiting there. And I just arrived in Amsterdam, and I was quite nervous actually at that time. I was a bit nervous tonight as well.
Yeah, well, we're nervous too. Yeah, we are very.
I'm just always nervous. But then you guys walked in and like you're both so fucking tall. Oh, am I allowed to drop the F-bomb on this show?
Yeah, sure. We'll just beep it out with something like that. Every time you say like a curse word, we'll replace it with cunt.
Lucas always mentions Hitler in the show. Somewhere.
I do somehow, some way. So be prepared. We'll always cut it out.
Yeah. You could have like the Hitler segment where you could make a little jingle for that as well. The Hitler segment of the show.
Yeah, and
we have marching Germans.
Marching Germans. Well, we're not close, so we're not far from that in the world today. So just go out. Okay, but anyway, Alex, nice to have you here. And we met. We know Alex from the past, but you knew yourself from way before that, of course. And you were doing stuff in
arguable.
You were working at animation. You were doing what were you doing?
Actually, I heard your name from I think it was a mutual friend. He slept on my couch once.
Slept on my couch. This is a very interesting story. I heard your name once.
Cal Balda. He mentioned you when you were moving to Holland, and
Cal Balda slept on your couch once.
Well,
that's like a whole different episode, I think.
Director of the Minions slept on Terry's couch. Shocker.
Well, he was in Holland for an animation seminar, master class seminar. We had a bit of contact then, and later on when you came to Holland, he mentioned you. Well, he's coming to Holland and he's a great guy and he's looking for work because you had a job at that time. But in England,
let him tell his story.
Sorry, I'm filling in.
Well, just telling your story. You were born in 1975. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
You tell me my life story, and I'll sort of correct it as you go. So we'll go a few steps back. So I used to work at Illumination Entertainment in Paris. I worked there for about 5 or 6 years. We started, the first film I worked on there was Despicable Me, and Carl Balder, indeed, used to be the head of the layout department then at Illumination McGuff. And he went on to be the director of the Minions film and Minions 2. Is Minions 2 been out and I've missed it already, or is it coming out? I've lost track of those.
I think I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet, but I should.
I like the Minions.
Sorry, Kyle.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, Kyle's not watching this. I think maybe in the future when we're dead. But how did you end up in Paris? I wonder.
Yeah, it's a funny thing because I was living in London before that, and I was working on my first ever feature animation film, The Tale of Despereaux. For those
with a mouse, was that right?
Yeah, it's when animation world was going through its kind of sort of mouse phase, Ratatouille and
mouse phase.
And I was, in my mid-20s then. I had no clue what I was doing really, and I ended up managing the editorial department. So I was managing storyboard artists. I was managing the editor there, and the production manager at the time, Frederick Liesau, a great guy who I could probably credit to starting my career. Really, Frederick said, "I'm putting your name forward to this Parisian studio."
Yeah, cool.
Because they're after someone to do the editorial department there. At that time in Europe, the editorial department didn't really exist in animation movies. It was a really American thing. You had all of your storyboard artists and your editors, and they were really sort of swapping ideas. They were writing the story with the editor, and there was such a lot of complication and such a lot of changes to the script that it needed someone to manage that process. But in Europe, the budgets were always too small to even warrant having that. It was just an editor was there to cut in the boards, lock it, start making the animation, cut it. You've got no creativity involved.
No, you have nothing to say anymore about the script.
Exactly. How dare you say something about the script?
Yeah. Well,
exactly that. So when Illumination McGuff became Illumination McGuff because Chris Meledandri of Ice Age fame decided he was going to go outside of America, look for a different pool of animation talent. He brought his funding from Universal Pictures over to Paris and built. That studio was already built, right? They were doing great work, but he just basically pumped a load of money into it and brought Despicable Me.
Yeah.
And they needed someone to manage the editorial. And I was literally, this is what I'm told by the producer of Despicable Me, the only person she could find on the internet who would manage an editorial department in Europe.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's how I came to Paris.
Yeah. You were just the man for the job at that time. Yeah, because you've done the work.
The right time, right place.
Yeah, but
the only person there. So.
But how did you do? How did you do it for free on the mouse animation then? Because there were.
I just felt so lucky at the time because, like I said, I was in my mid-20s. I wasn't not used to, I was still living like a student at that time. Really trying to make ends meet and student housing and just not really taking care of myself as you do. And then suddenly I got offered this great job, really well paid. I moved to Paris. Got an apartment in Paris, and I just sort of felt very
on top of the world.
How the hell?
Finally, I got what I deserve. It would seem to feel like you've struck gold. You were working at stuff, and then you're trying to make ends meet, and then you suddenly get this call. And within the year, you were in Paris, or how long between the call?
It was quicker than that. They called me. They did an interview on the phone. I said to them at the end of the call, "Are you?" They said they wanted to hire me. I said, "Are you sure you don't want to meet me in person first?"
Yeah, I just see this hard cut of you standing in Paris, French music beginning. You're scratching your beard, where am I, man? It's
it was a bit like that because they said no, we don't want to meet you in person first. When can you start? And I was like, well, my job finishes here in 3 weeks. She goes, okay, 3 weeks then.
Oh,
and
wow,
so
man.
I was there in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And how was that experience on the mouse movie? Was it a good experience or? How was there a good budget for the movie?
Well, no, but I was at the stage of my career then when I wasn't privy to the budget information of Tale of Despereaux. But by the size of it, and it was directed by Sam Fell and Robert Stevenhagen, a Dutch guy you probably know, and it was also the Hollywood director was Gary Ross of Seabiscuit and Hunger Games. And it had Universal backing, and it was a big budget film. It was a huge flop, and they stopped pumping as much money into those animations after that.
That's actually a shame. Yeah. What studio was that?
Yeah, it was just basically Frames, but it was gosh, you put me on the
was
spot then.
I know,
we'll just cut that question out. And if everybody's like, he's having amnesia or something.
But Framestore is a huge studio, right? They do all the Marvel animations and so yeah.
Okay, but the experience you had at that studio, was it a good basis to work on when you went to Paris, or did you were shocked or baffled when they came with the product they wanted to make? Were you afraid that you could manage it, or were you like, okay, this is a piece of cake?
Again, I was at that age where I was just too confident for my own good. I really felt at that time that
I've never had the feeling I was too good confident for my own good. I don't know, maybe because I'm not or something. I don't know. I wish I had that emotion, like I'm young and I can do anything I want. That's good because it gets you places.
Yeah, maybe it did. I mean, I didn't think of it in that way. I didn't think at all. I think is what I'm trying to say. I didn't
stoned all day.
maybe. But to answer your question, how did it get me ready for that job? I remember one very important lesson I learned. I was my job was to make sure that the edit was one of my jobs was to make sure that when that edit was locked and the animation came in and the layout came in from the artist, that if there was any length changed anywhere, or actually also when the shots were published to the animators, if there was a length change at any point, I need to immediately flag it, so that goes through the pipeline. I remember I was sitting in the edit with Gary Ross, Sam Fell, Robert Stevenhagen, all these superstars of animation, and they had added 12 frames to a shot. Who am I, right? I'm this 24-year-old kid. Saying, right, add 12 frames there. So I'm writing it down, but I didn't think of how it might have. That shot was already in compositing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I didn't realize it was my job at that time to say, sorry guys.
That's already in compositing. It's not going to happen. Yeah.
So you ruined the project.
But basically what happened was, so that went through the pipeline, and then about a week later, because it takes so long for all these things to add up, someone somewhere down the line, probably in the compositing department, was like, where the fuck did these 12 frames come from? And the question came back to me, and it was all my fault. And that taught me a big lesson about sort of how a pipeline works. So when I got to MacGuff, I became sort of the guard of the edit.
Yeah, because it's very important that everyone in audio. I know I'm working on a little project right now. I can't even manage it on my own. I'm my own editor and I'm my own editorial, and I'm just changing shit, and it doesn't. I've got extra frames. Like, where did the fucking frames come from? And I don't know. You're the one who did it. I know. But the guy making
inside out.
Yeah, but the guy making the audio is really sort of from, what are you doing? What are you doing? If I change something, did you change something? He's really anal.
Yeah, exactly. You fucked up my score.
Yeah. So it's really, but in this big of a project, I think it's a real responsibility.
Yeah, and I still deal with those things to this day with the films that I work on. Creative, trying to change things when it's too late to change things. Yeah, and it's just become a theme of my career. It's like me slapping the hands of creative. Stop being creative.
Yeah. Stop being creative. Yeah. How does that make you feel? Like you're dying of corona, and then you end up on the doors of heaven, and he says, you've stopped creative people from making creative things. You're going to hell, man. You had a wonderful life, but now it's true. But it's necessary, right? You have to have someone who says, okay, no, we're now in this phase.
You're responsible to get
thank
there.
Thank you for answering God's question to me.
Okay, but then you did some work in Paris. For 4 years. That's quite a time. And then what?
Well, it's more like 5 years. I did Despicable Me, Despicable Me 2, the Lorax. Then I started Minions, and then I was also helping out with Secret Life of Pets. And
is that in 5 years?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's
really
that's some tight productions.
Well, don't forget those last two. I started at the beginning of them, and then I left. Well, what happened was I met a Dutch woman. Is what happened in Paris.
Dutch women.
Yes.
They always screw it up. They always screw it up.
Why did you go and have to meet a Dutch woman, man?
You have to be careful. It's not becoming a very sexist show.
No. It's Dutch women are awesome.
Yeah,
okay, so you moved, and then you moved to Holland, the Netherlands.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't happen straight away. We met. It was a whirlwind romance. We had a baby in Paris, and we were suddenly living in this apartment in the center of Paris with this baby. He's upstairs asleep right now. Not a baby anymore.
No.
And we thought, well, I'd been there 5 years, and Leo, that's her name. She hadn't finished her studies, so the pregnancy was sort of an unexpected thing. So we made the decision to move back here so she could finish her studies. I sort of had enough of, I'd done quite a lot of films there. I thought, I've got quite a good resume now with these films. I'll start anew in the Netherlands. Mm-hmm. So we made the choice.
Yeah, and then you started working on projects in Holland that took forever and never got finished. No,
it was a bumpy, long road in the Netherlands.
Yeah, okay.
But a little step back, because in the years that I'm really curious about the years you spent at McGuff. A lot of people watching, listening to this podcast, they're interested in animation and film. So how was that process? How is it to work at such a big studio with so many people working on one project? How does it play out in a nutshell?
Well, it's a big question.
Yeah.
Well, I can only give you the specific sort of dynamic at Illumination, right? Which was it was an American movie, and a core of American producers and directors came over to Paris, and they were kind of like the bosses, so the authority figures. And they had, French people who ran the studio, but there was definitely this American hierarchy immediately set up, which I felt at the beginning, if I was witnessing it, caused it was difficult at the beginning, because it was not necessarily what French people are like. I love French people, but they like to push against authority and conformity, which is what's great about them. Yeah. It's in their character. But sometimes in some situations, like autocracy works better than democracy, right? Not in running countries, I would say. But like when you've got a job to do and everyone knows their job, and it's very clear what their job is within that hierarchy, then you become very efficient. Yeah. And I think that's how it was set up. It took a few years to get that really running smoothly. And I think I noticed that it was really running smoothly by the time Minions was going.
Cool.
And then the creatives within the French creatives who were sort of like rising up were starting to get in those more authoritative hierarchical positions themselves. So there was this mix going on.
Yeah. So it worked. They integrated the French.
They allowed the French to integrate within their own country. Yeah, it's nice of them, wasn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, because I think I would presume it's tough to tell people what to do, and but it's necessary to get this product done. I'm always so overwhelmed if you see an animation and it's finished and you see all the people working on it. You think, how the hell did they manage to get this done?
Well,
I often I wonder the same thing sometimes myself, and I've been there. And the thing is, like, layout is over here, and like animation is over here, and editorial is over here. And a lot of the time they don't even talk to each other.
No, that's the strange thing about it, and it gets done.
Yeah. And it's sometimes I look back on it and it's a mystery to me as well. Yeah. I wish I could shine more light on it, but you always have those dailies, and like you have sort of like a show and tell events where people can sort of like show what their department has been doing, for example.
So everybody
but a lot
sees,
of the time,
everybody sees everything,
exactly.
Sort of.
And I thought it was done very well at MPC when I worked over there in London, where they have a huge cinema there, and every month they have a monthlies where every single department goes and sits in that cinema, and the boss goes up and presents a reel, which is everyone's work.
And that was a little bit after you left to work in Holland. You couldn't find anything, right?
I was a postman at that time in the Netherlands. Yeah.
So you couldn't find a decent job, and so you and then you got offered a job at MPC.
Yeah, they were making Jungle Book at that time, and they needed someone to come in and manage the creation of creatures. So I was in charge of managing the creature creation, which was another huge learning curve. Yeah. Because like in editorial, I started to learn about how storyboards became layout, and how layout became animation, and how animation became lighting, the pipeline, you know. Yeah. When I was making creatures at MPC, I really started to learn about the asset pipeline, about how a sculpt is turned into a model, and how that model then sort of becomes a rig. And like I don't know if you've seen Jungle Book, but if you see sort of the muscle system underneath the skin, and you see the skin and moving over the muscles. So, like, someone's in charge of the skeleton, someone's in charge of the muscles, someone's in charge of the skin, and then someone's in charge of the fur, and the way the fur sort of reacts to the light and all the bits of dirt in the fur. There's a lot of those things I had no idea about before I went to work on that film.
No, but people who watch the movies, they don't have any idea how it works. They just see like a monkey walking, and they don't know how many marriages are ruined. And people are having strokes at some point. But that's the thing. You don't see. Sometimes I see a movie on. We're making a podcast, and that's not a lot of work, but it's work, and it goes on YouTube. If you see how many YouTube movies there are, how many edits people make, how many hours of labor go into stuff, it's
crazy.
It's crazy.
My son watches. I don't know if your kids are the same, but my son watches YouTube videos about his people playing his favorite computer games, video games.
Yeah, stitching
and
stuff.
And I was just doing that today, and I was thinking, wait a minute, someone has edited them playing this game with them doing voices over the top, pretending to be the characters, with sound effects and everything. That's so much work.
Yeah, that's so much
Why?
work. Yeah, why? Why? To make money. I've been watching like the YouTube videos for people making like playing with the toys and stuff, and then you see how much that goes in hours of labor, but that to the side.
You went to work for MPC, and I also remember that you didn't have a very good time at that time.
With the Jungle Book,
it was a very stressful period, because that was the first film MPC. They got a deal with Disney, and it wasn't a very good deal, right?
In the practical sense, yeah. I mean, I think I'm not an expert on it, but from what I can tell with those, especially in London, you have MPC, you have Double Negative, you have Frame Store. There are a lot of smaller companies as well. And you're right. They put in a bid to the big studios, whether it's Marvel or whether it's Disney, and they say, we'll do it for this much. And I wonder how much, who's listening to this podcast and who I'm going to insult, but I wonder how much sort of like line by line work goes into that bid, right? Or whether it's trying to just get the work in. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that a lot of those companies have, in the past, sort of burnt themselves, and you saw what happened to Rhythm and Hughes. In the States. I think they were a victim of this, of making their profit margins so thin when they bid on a huge project that they have to work acts of magic. It's not magic. It's labor working.
Yeah, it's slave labor almost
throughout the night.
Yeah. Okay, but you managed to they managed to do it with the Jungle Book, right? You said it was like whipping the shit, but they did a bit that was maybe a headache, but acceptable because it worked out.
It was illuminating for me to see the way that kind of slice of the animation world works, because I realized it wasn't for me. Yeah. part of it was the fact that I was away from my family for 6 months doing that.
Yeah.
That was stressful in the first place. I didn't get to. I've got friends in London who I was looking forward to seeing. I didn't get to see anyone.
Yeah.
It was hard work. It was relentless, and I got into animation and into film because I love stories, but I also like to have a life outside of my work. So if you go through a time in your life where you can really burn the midnight oil working, that's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't do it forever because you're gonna push yourself into an early grave. So
exactly, yeah.
I realised that I like to balance my life.
Yeah. I don't want to work no more. Look it up. It's a song. We make songs. It's really awesome. Yeah, yeah, but I admire.
I think that's maybe where that song came from.
I admired.
You written it at MPC.
Yeah, exactly.
In the late hours.
I really admire the way you look at that. I want to do cool stuff, but I also want to have time for my family, for myself, and don't want to burn myself. So yeah.
Well, it worked because by the time that I'd finished the Jungle Book, I left. I was asked to sort of stay on and manage part of the animation department. But I decided not to do that. Come back, but that was around the time when we got to work again together in Rotterdam.
Yeah.
And that was fantastic. I came back and I did another completely different kind of challenge.
Yeah.
So that was the next step of my career, going from sort of like this.
The biggest sort of film at the moment to the smallest film that.
You did Oliver's Travels.
Yeah.
Well, we could talk about that for a bit. You came to Rotterdam and you got in contact with some producers that were creating animation film. How did that go or work? How did that started?
Well, I thought it was an incredibly exciting experience because it was the films I'd all worked on were financed. The money was in the bank account, and it was just a case of making it, right?
Yeah.
I'd never experienced development before.
Yeah.
So it was the first time, and possibly a little bit naive, sort of like thinking about how you could raise money to make an animation film.
Yeah.
Knowing that it takes years to build a pipeline.
Yeah.
But what was fantastic about that opportunity was that it was that robotic technology. It was the mixing of animation techniques and real cameras and live action stop frame set. Just to explain to the audience, this was a film called Oliver's Travels, which some producers in Rotterdam were trying to get off the ground. Ferry and Lucas put my name forward and invited me to produce or project manage this.
I thought we need somebody who knows how this pipeline and how big studios operate, and that's where you, for me, came into my mind. Like, we need somebody who actually done big movies, otherwise we're lost. We're sort of, we're in the dark, So that's how I thought. Well, and I reached out to you, and you said, well, I'm working at MPC now. I could get a job in Holland. It would be great because I have my family there and stuff like that. We said, well, you have a lot of experience with working on Despicable Me, the Minions, and all those movies. So it was a no-brainer for us, So you brought a lot of knowledge about how to make a movie for the big screen, and we wanted to do that from scratch. And I thought, well, that's a good adventure, and you never know how it plays out. Maybe we're the next McGuff or the next Illumination from the Netherlands. That's
and maybe not. No, okay, but well, the project projects are difficult to finance. Like you said, you were you know the process from okay. There's money, there's a team. The process of making the movie.
If you've got no proven track record of making
it's really difficult.
A feature movie,
Yeah.
Then there's no big finances are going to take that risk on you. Why would they? And we did the best with the resources we had.
Exactly, but it was for also a great experience. But to keep that short, there was never a time that the editorial could really like get off the ground at that project. So that was a shame, but
You also had that's what I was fascinated about. You said, well, I always was fascinated by telling stories, and actually you knew a lot about storytelling as well, a lot about screenwriting, and do you have like an ambition to write your own stories, or how?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that was around that time when we were working together in Rotterdam. That was when my storytelling mind was really sort of sparking into action. I was reading a lot at that time about script writing, storytelling. I'd always written prose, but I really was trying to make that step at that time to get into script writing. And I felt that during, I was sitting in those rooms on Despicable Me and the other films with the directors and the writers and the editors. And my job in that room was to take notes. So I saw that you don't just write a script and make an animation film. You write a first draft, you start drawing it, and you redraft, redraw. I found that absolutely fascinating, and I saw the way they communicated with each other, and I learned what, especially for that age group, that sort of like family, children age group, what works and what doesn't work. We would be sitting in that room, and you'd see a page on a script, and you'd see a paragraph which was like longer than an inch. You'd go, boring.
Yeah, you're just
the audience are going to lose.
Yeah, like a visual representation of how boring looks. Like, put your fingers on, put your penis in. one of I used to work with this fantastic director, Chris Renaud. Okay, he's the first director on Despicable Me. Mm-hmm. He's one of the first people who I met at that company. He's got a laugh like Ricky Gervais. Like, he throws his head back, his mouth is wide open, and like we used to sit on these leather couches, and like if there was a good joke, like the editor had edited well on screen, or even if you were telling him a joke that is something that you should think should be in the film, if he slapped his hand down on that leather sofa and made this really loud slapping noise, and he's laughing his head off, you knew you were onto a winner. Yeah. And usually those jokes which made him laugh the loudest were the most successful in the cinema as well. Okay, cool. Right.
Got this sort of like litmus
This
test.
is like this literal, like this. It's like this. How do you call it? Like birds that sniff out gasoline or something. If he was like slapping and putting his head back, that's a good joke. That's
a winner. That's a winner. Yeah.
That's good to have. You want to take that home with you.
We had a guy here on the podcast, and he was telling us sort of the same story that. If it makes you laugh, that's such a great, parameter. If it makes you laugh, it's.
But but that's the thing. If you're like writing this animation, and you're on the first draft, and then you do the drawings, you do the second draft, and then eventually you're like, you get bored, right? If the joke that made you laugh so hard in the beginning. You've seen like 20 million times in a month, and then you still have to animate it, and you still have to judge it. How do you like keep the spark, in these things? How do you keep?
But I think if it makes you laugh the first time, and you, then you have to really get the joke, the timing right. Yeah. But if it's right, then...
Well, maybe, but I'm comparing it with like...
Then you the thing is, if you have to watch the edit over and over again, it's one of the reasons why I can't watch Despicable Me and those films now, because I'm saying the words as I'm watching it, because I've seen those films in the edit hundreds of times. Yeah. But you're Ferry's right. If it makes you laugh the first time, then it makes you laugh a little bit less the second time. But you have that faith in the joke, because what directors do when they do screenings is they're looking around looking for laughs.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, is it as funny to everyone else as it was to me? You know, and those directors, they live off that.
Yeah.
They live off.
Is it just how
the atmosphere of the room.
how love works? You know, if you're crazy about her the first time, and then the second time you're like, okay, man, I used to like be in love with her. Well,
But wait till she fucks another guy.
No. The metaphor is
the metaphor. Yeah,
you make sure that everyone else is still looking at your girl. Yeah.
exactly.
I thought this wasn't going to get sexist. Sorry.
Sorry.
No, we'll just we'll have to cut everything out. It's not the LBGTD STD.
Plus. Your ambition for writing. I think we were at that point. Well, it started a little bit when you were in those rooms and you saw all this. Did you had the feeling that you were like, I can do that, or wasn't that something?
I know the algorithm now.
But
at McGuff they did these events where you could go and pitch your ideas to the directors. They had the days like that, and they also, on the DVDs. Remember DVDs?
Yeah.
On the DVD extra.
DVD extra.
There were lots of short films. And there was a scheme in the company where you could pitch your idea for those shorts, and they would pair you as a writer together with a director. And so, that was the first time when they started doing that, when they were literally sort of appealing to me directly, like, do you want to pitch something? I was like, me? That really was the first time. And and so I did that, and my ideas didn't get accepted, but it planted a seed into sort of like me wanting to write. Yeah, sure.
Maybe they do that on purpose, right? To get everybody sort of cranking up ideas and for free,
Yeah, they think like, maybe we have some pearls.
Yeah,
inside, but it's also dangerous because they might lose a very good editorial guy. You want to also want to write movies.
Well, it's the same at Pixar. I know that they have this those shorts they do every time. Usually they're animators. They can send in their ideas, and sometimes a short gets picked out, and and they have an opportunity to direct it.
It feels kind of like the lottery in this hierarchy. You have like, of course, you have like the really creative people, and then you have the guys that do the production, editorial, and then you have the animators, of course. But then you have a lot of jobs that just like the normal civilians in the Pixar or the animation company, and they give you like, maybe you're as good as we are. You can pitch your idea, and maybe you can get to direct your own movie, but maybe not. Is it like this? Maybe you can be a millionaire. I don't know, because you told me you were sitting there and you learned a lot about the script writing, but you're really good at what you do, right? Because otherwise you weren't doing the thing you're doing right now. Maybe, but do you feel you're in the right place, or do you feel you're just always like wanting to make movies? How do you feel? Are you in the right place?
I'm. Well, again, you ask such big questions.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I feel. No, it's good. It's good. I feel like I'm in a really, really good place right now, and I'm doing the right thing, which is I do a mixture of what I'm good at and what I want to do. And they're two very different things, right? Yeah, I have this curse, which I happen to be very good at. Organizing people and organizing numbers. I find in those two things they're good for my brain, because I like talking to people and I like achieving something together in a team. Yeah. And I also like the way numbers work. This is terribly, terribly geeky and sad to say. I also love the way numbers work in an Excel sheet.
Yeah,
because they don't have a personality and they just are what they are, and they always add up to the same thing, right?
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
I have a curse in that I can do those two things, and that's quite easy for me. So I can line produce, and I can project manage. That's easy. I say easy, relatively easy. What I want to do is be a writer, and that's my ambition would be to write full time and develop stories and work with artists and all that type of stuff. But I know that it's such a precarious thing to do. I get the best of both worlds right now. I can help the company Submarine where I work develop things, and in order to get paid every month, exactly. I can do what I'm good at. So I feel like I'm in quite a good place.
So you're not only line producing, but you're also creatively involved. Is that the right way to put it?
That's what you told us when we were doing Oliver's Travels. You know, you came from the big company doing only that part of the animation. You were like excited about being able to sit in the audio recordings of the animatics and doing voices and making changes. Also, you know, you had ideas for jokes. I saw you really like doing that. You know, so that's
How did you? You started out at Submarine on Undone, right? Or was that before Undone? Okay, so they really
that was Undone. Undone was just about to launch. Go into production when they hired me. Yeah.
So when our ship was sinking, you jumped off. And you jumped
One way of saying it.
Jumped on the submarine.
Is it when
swam down to the submarine?
Yeah. when the series
open up!
Help me out!
We were sinking and the submarine came by exactly, and then you started working on a project that's called Undone. That's done in a couple of years. So is it still called Undone, or is it done?
It's done.
It's done.
It's called Done.
It's about time travel, so it's never quite
it's
done.
It's never done.
Yeah.
How did that? You jumped ships. You had some new adventures ahead, and Submarine is in. Where was it?
Amsterdam.
Is it Amsterdam? Yeah. So you went to Amsterdam. You were living in Amsterdam at that point time.
Haarlem, right?
Or Haarlem.
Was it close to Amsterdam, right?
Well, I live in Veest.
Don't say it. Don't say people will hunt you down.
I could give my exact postcode if you want. Yeah. It's not hard to find me if you come to Veest. It's such a small place. Just shout my name.
Alex, where are you? So you started, but did you immediately were thrown into the deep? You know, when you started working at Undone, or working at Submarine, was it Undone?
Yeah, completely thrown into the deep end, and it was Undone is for the uninitiated in your listeners, is a TV series on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
It's the main production company in Los Angeles is Tornanta. That's Michael Eisner's company, ex-Disney. And the studio I worked for, Submarine, had won the bid, as it were, to do all the animation in the studio in Amsterdam.
And it was also.
And so they were really.
It was also with the. Because you had the films like Scanner Darkly and what was the other name? I think
Waking Life.
Yeah, that was a bit of a dreamy sort of rotoscoped feel, and I know that Hisco wanted to do something else, but it was in that was the style that they chose, right?
You mentioned Hisco Holzing, who's the director of Undone and the production designer. You know, I mean, he's an incredibly talented oil painter and animator in his own right, and he's done rotoscope animation before in his short films.
With the junkyard.
Junkyard, that's right. And if you look at Undone and you look at Hisco's work, and then you look at Undone again and you look back at the work of Richard Linklater on A Scanner Darkly, the producer is Tommy Pallotta, right, who I work with on a current project right now. Mm-hmm. Is you see that blending of that sort of very comic book rotoscope world, which is Waking Life and Scanner Darkly, and you see the sort of like the oil painted depth of Hisco's world, and that's brought together on Undone.
It's the shading is more soft. It's more. Yeah. It's totally different.
We had Henk Kok in in our podcast a couple of months ago, and it was really cool talking to him. And
I love Hank.
He told us, yeah.
I've got it on the shelf. He's got a fantastic book about self-love and spiritualism that he wrote.
He wrote a book. We didn't talk about any book. Oh, Henk,
you didn't do your research.
No, we didn't know. I don't have to do research.
I knew he did a book.
I have 3 children, Alex. I don't have time for research, man.
Have you got 3?
I've got 3 already. I got 3.
You got busy, man.
I've got busy, man. There's no animation. There's nothing done.
Only procreating.
Yeah, I'm just procreating. No, but Henk, it was really nice to have him here, and we had a good a good talk about, and we talked about already that the process of Untitled it was really not tough, but it's like a really big animation to do, and it consumes a lot of time, and he had to work around to make himself a better man, stop drinking alcohol or something, and to keep up with the pace.
You got Lucas really depressed.
No, he didn't. Yeah, I made a joke about being depressed, but he got me inspired more. Yeah. At that time, I saw how man could change to be better in producing and in his work. But I thought you're from like the American hierarchy companies. Did you experience that the same way? Is it like when you went to Submarine and working on Undone was like, whoa, the pressure is really high, or you're like, I know this, I'm used to this?
The pressure was really high. There were a lot of late nights. The main production company, Tornanta, they're in LA, so you're kind of on the phone at 9 p.m. till 10 p.m. every night. That beats you down a little bit. The pipeline was challenging because we were blending live action, 2D rotoscope animation being done in Texas, 2D ink and paint animation being done in Amsterdam, oil paintings being done, the mixing of oil paintings with the 3D visual effects.
Yeah,
we were just creating that pipeline as we went. It was at times really tough. There's no question about it.
How many people worked in Amsterdam?
Oh, it was about 70 people.
And you had to manage. Did you do line producing? So you had to manage the whole workforce. Everybody.
I was line producer. I was sort of like line producer and kind of senior production manager. I was very hands-on line producer. So sort of like I was responsible for the money. I was responsible for the schedule. I worked with an amazing production manager called Baz Cocken, who still works at Submarine. He is just a whiz when it comes to like creating like Excel formulas and planning, stuff like that. I just wouldn't have been able to do it without him.
Mm-hmm.
So between me and him, we were able to, I'm sort of like the communicator with the client in a way. Mm-hmm. Like I know what's going on the work floor, and then I sort of report to the client, and I try to protect everyone on the work floor.
And the client is
from politics.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
Yeah, that's your job.
I could describe myself as a politic umbrella.
Politic umbrella. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so the crew are protected.
Yeah. It's raining cats and dogs now, but you won't hear anything, guys. Just keep working, please.
And you're doing an amazing job.
You're doing an amazing job.
That's a good thing about the English, right? They can bring bad news in a very polite way.
I think they could do a better job than Americans. We were having some discussions with some podcast guests, and they said like the Americans are really, it's too thick on top. We really like what you did, but I don't know. It's like the tone of voice maybe or something. I don't know. It's that's just not.
No, you're right. I've worked with enough Americans over the years. I love working with Americans, and I got used to it. I always know when a criticism is coming, because it's always at the top. Is like, I love everything about what you've done. Blah, 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 blah. You listen to it, and then you hear, But
yeah, exactly. Yeah, sugarcoat somebody and then you can give him like a poke, right? But
give him a kicking.
You give him a kicking. But how do you do that?
You mean with animators, or you mean with artists,
just
right?
if you have to like communicate something that has to be done over again, at what tone is it?
Well, if something had to be done over again, there's only two reasons why that is. The feedback that was given wasn't clear enough, and it's not their fault, or they didn't listen to the feedback, and it is their fault. Yeah. So I mean, you can distill it into one of those two things.
You just take it to the facts.
You just say that to the person. Yeah. That's like there's two ways this problem is going to work.
But I think that's also a talent, right? You know, it's very difficult to give somebody critique. I was talking to we were talking to Stein Windig. You remember him? He was a concept. He's a concept artist. I think he's also working on Undone. Too.
He did a bit of work on Undone, yeah.
He did.
Let's not over-exaggerate.
I think he did more previous things. And, I don't know exactly what what his role was, but in the past he did some concept art, and that's actually when he first started doing concept art. So he did a lot of things. He was a sort of generalist, and then he wanted to specialize in concept art. And he said, well, Alex, he was great in giving critique. You know, he was a very polite Englishman. But underneath, I felt like I wasn't doing that great.
But he wasn't doing that great at the time, I think.
No, but
if Alex doesn't like it.
And he said, well, I'm not very good in doing cute and cuddly.
Oh, that was the thing, yeah. I didn't. He was like the really rough.
He was really dark and
rough, and and he had to do the cute thingies. Yeah. Okay.
So
I remember.
Yeah. But
so you saying that I didn't give him very honest feedback? Is that what you're saying?
No, you did. You ruined his life.
He's still depressed about it. No, I think you did. You're very good at that, you know, and I think that's also a talent, you know. I think I would be very terrible at that, you know. Like I think
I never give very critique. I just let him make whatever he's making because I know I get smacked around if I say, you know, do you really?
I remember. I do remember some of the slamming of doors when I was
sometimes, yeah, but you know,
we all are big egos, you know, and I think that's the tricky part, you know.
Well, actually, that's what I was going to say about giving feedback to artists. You were asking specifically about the artists on Undone. Well, maybe not Undone, but like how I approach giving feedback. Thing is, if you're a professional and you've got a contract and you're working on a show or a film, part of that contract is literally a contract. Is that if you haven't addressed the direction correctly, then you will get retakes. You can't bring your ego to a sort of like a service job, as it were. You know, you can certainly bring your ego to a job if you are hired as a director or an art director and say, "I'm sorry, but this is my vision," and you know. You're shitting on my vision, and I'm going to stand up for it. But if you're a designer or an animator, hopefully you work in an environment where you're given freedom to express yourself. But other times you just got to do your job, haven't you?
Yeah. Is that maybe like a foreign? Is that like are the Americans or the British or the Dutch or the French? Is there a country that's better in like putting their egos aside? Because I have the feeling you're working at Undone at Amsterdam and you're doing a great job. So, you know, that maybe, but I have the feeling that because of the Dutch doing all this things on their own, you know, there are a lot of Dutch creators, Dutch animators, they do the producing, they do the directing, they do everything themselves, you know. So when they start working at a bigger project with bigger investments and clearer roles, they have to like tone down a little bit, you know. Okay, now you're doing only the storyboarding, so you're not director anymore. You're doing storyboarding now. Yeah. So have you felt that is different in countries, or is it just different in?
You know, I think that the Dutch are very emotional, and you know the Dutch the Dutch bring everything they've got to the workplace, and it can be very disappointing for them sometimes when they're not appreciated or they don't get to express themselves fully, and they behave and they react in sometimes what I would see. Well, I was shocked sometimes at the level of unprofessionalism. Oh my God, I'm saying this on your podcast. I can't believe it.
No, that's good. You know, that's
and you're saying this from the experience you got at Zoho Studio.
No, I think maybe, but
there's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of emotion there. I felt like I was living in a soap opera sometimes.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I had to pinch myself to believe it.
Is this real?
Yeah. But that was me coming directly from NPC, the Jungle Book.
Yeah, to
where everyone just does what they're told. I mean, the thing is, out of all those nations that you've just mentioned, like the English and the Americans are better at falling into line and just doing their job.
Yeah, exactly.
So that just comes more naturally to them. The French and the Dutch are terrible at it.
Yeah.
I was been talking to a 2D VFX animator from San Francisco who does all the sort of like water effects and stuff on The Simpsons. She's so talented. She's got such an amazing career behind her, and I'm trying to get her involved in something right now. And when I emailed her, I was expecting like, oh, she's not going to be interested. She's too big. And then she's suddenly so enthusiastic. She's so honoured that I've contacted her. She's so humble, you know.
Yeah.
So the Americans are able somehow to sort of not let their egos get in the way of their sort of excitement somehow.
Yeah, exactly. But I think you hit a really good nerve in the way some countries are more successful in producing bigger animations than others. You know, if you say like the Dutch are, like I predicted, you know, the Dutch do everything themselves. So that if they have to fall in line with a bigger production, it's really difficult. They're emotional. The French are really, no authority, and the British and the English are more used to that. So that defines like a real clarity of how that would
the Chinese they work
they're
really well.
They're the best. They make like an animation of like 5 hours in a week. Yeah. They fall in line.
I remember you saying that in Holland, you know, when we were looking at talent, we realized that there were a lot of generalists, you know. Because we have to do everything ourselves, you know. You have to specialize almost, but a lot of people don't do that, you know, because they want to do everything themselves.
How's that working out for because when you're working on Undone now with Submarine in Amsterdam, and that's working like a charm, right?
Well, it's interesting you mention it, Ferry, because one of my aims at Submarine is to create more specialists.
Mm-hmm.
What we're trying to do there is we're trying to create an environment where people are allowed to specialize.
Yeah.
But, you know, when things are scarce, I think it doesn't just happen in animation or our world, you know. When food is scarce in sort of for hunter-gatherers, they have to become generalists and they have to hunt wild boar and be able to fish. You know, when things are scarce, you have to become a generalist.
Yeah.
So that's the same in the animation business. When there's not a lot of work going around, you've got to be able to sort of like be agile and take what you can.
Yeah, exactly.
If the Submarine were able to bring in sort of like these large projects one after the other, and you know, we're working with Blender now as our main 3D software. So we've started making courses now. So we have a modeling course. We have
the third guy of our podcast is an animator. And he works with Blender, and he's looking for a job. So hire him.
Send him my way.
It's called Eric. He's a nice guy.
Nice guy.
Ex-Marine.
He'll fall in line like, make this for you, man. Yeah. So we'll send him.
What's his achternaam? What is it? Eric?
Reniers.
He will send you an email tomorrow.
Yeah. So
send him my way. Is he? Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm always on the lookout for these Blender guys.
Well, he's a cartoon character of his own.
You like the cut of his jib.
Yeah, the cut of his jib.
You know that English expression?
Yeah, I remember. I remember. You like the cut of his jib? Do ya?
Anyway, so like the specialist generalist thing, we maneuver ourselves into hopefully luxurious position where people can just be a modeler or a rigger or an animator or a compositor, and so seeing that change as I'm working at Submarine, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I see a lot, with sort of talent scouts from big studios, they always say, well, if you have one thing you want to do the rest of your life, what would it be, and specialize in that, and that gets you in a big studio, because but you also need the rocketeers. You also need the guys that are very hands-on and they can do everything. So I would
love to have only one specialty and be really focused on this one thing I just wanted to do. I'm just like a 3D.
Would you not get a bit bored if you were doing it?
I would, because otherwise I would be specialized in something, because I always, maybe it's like a concentration or focus problem. I don't know, but I can always be jealous at people that they're so fascinated in one aspect of the animation process or something. And
I think the Rocketeers work in development. Development is a really, really interesting place to be because you don't have much money in development always, and you have to sell something to a financier, and you might have to do we went on Oliver's Travels. We were making what was sales materials, right? So we would do the scripting, do the storyboarding, layout, make the animation. So you sort of you're searching for sort of ideas and different styles of animation. Mm-hmm. And if you're working in development and you do have many strings to your bow, you can really help push forward a project and sell it and then move on to the next one.
Exactly. That's what I like, because I get bored really easy, if some process takes too long, I'm just looking over my shoulder to see what's going on elsewhere, So
but I think the interest that always drives us, I noticed in all those I think 20 years with animation, I think that's the story. We always
that's
like
the story.
To get
that's the story. That's
to get the story right.
Okay,
And
that's the story.
And if it's with storyboards or in animation or just a short animation of 2 minutes for a company or whatever. But it's always about a story, telling a story, last podcast that was online was with a character designer. And one of the things he says, well, I'm actually a storyteller. And I think, well, it's a cliche and everybody says that. Well, I'm a storyteller. But it's true,
But the riggers can't say that. The riggers don't say, I'm just a storyteller. No, you just rig 3D models. They're not telling stories, right? Yeah, I'm telling the story with this.
But that's the thing. They separate their day job from their dream, right?
Yeah.
I told you before about my day job and what I really want to do. Yeah. Their day job is like rigging and like a creature's eyeball. For Christ's sake, that's their talent. They've done it,
Yeah.
And so, but in their spare time, they're a storyteller.
Yeah, that's exactly everyone. That's true. Everyone is in essential storyteller, and they specialize in something. Some people.
Well, if you
become storytellers,
if you design a character and you develop a whole concept for this character, there's a story attached to that. If you're a director, you're communicating with a lot of storytellers, and you want them all to tell your story, but you pick up the cherries along the way, the breadcrumbs.
The breadcrumbs are to get home.
There's some breadcrumbs. There's some cherries.
There's some breadcrumbs.
Some
cherries.
But you pick up something along the way to get to the finish.
Some people want to get credits for something. I wrote this story. I'm telling this story, and somebody who's just doing textures, getting like fulfillment out of like micromanaging how this animal looks, and goes home and doesn't want to be, his name is somewhere on the title. It doesn't matter to him. It's like, I'm doing textures. Those are people that don't want to be on top and look what I made. I think there's a difference in that too. Only not people telling stories, but in how, in which way you want to be like credited to what you've done.
Yeah, it comes back to the ego thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You did some voice acting as well, right?
You did?
Yeah, some accidental voice acting. Yeah, I did. I did in Minions movie. I am the royal advisor to the Queen. So I have a couple of lines in there where I say, what do I say now?
Fucking Minions! I want to fucking kill those fucking bastards.
That was it. You've been watching it. You've seen it. Anyway, so basically, like when you work in the editorial department, there you always do scratch dialogue, right? So you record it before you get the main actors in, just so you can get the timing right in the storyboard. Exactly. So I was because seeing as I like the sound of my own voice, I'm always in that recording booth saying, I can do it. Well, of course, they had a posh English royal advisor to the Queen. Who did they ask to do that?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And then I remember being in the sort of editorial review at the time. I was at the back of the room as usual, and my voice had been in there for a while. And the producer was saying, "Oh, so we have to cast someone to record the royal advisor." And then Chris Meledandri, the big boss, right on the other side of the line, saying, "Oh, I like what we have in right now. Let's leave that in." And I'm at the back of the room going,
"Yes,
get in."
Yeah.
I'm in, man. I'm in.
And did you get paid for that, right? Or no?
Did you get paid?
Yeah, you get paid. Yeah, you get paid. So if in one of those movies, if you get a voice acting position, you get paid like a sort of a paycheck for being an actor, right? For your hour or your whatever. But here's the good thing. I also got a bit of ukulele into the Minions.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy playing a little bit of ukulele, as you know, as well. And they asked me to do that because the guy who does the Minion voices, Pierre Coffin, he wanted to sing Love Me Tender by Elvis Presley. And he said, Alex, because he'd listened to one of my records and he knew I played ukulele. Can you play this for me so I can sing to it? So he did Love Me Tender and he sang it, and it was great. It was great hearing my ukulele with the Minions singing Love Me Tender over the top. That scene in the Minions movie where they play the ukulele around the fire is actually cut out of the main movie. It's in one of the DVD extras, I think. But one of my ukulele parts is still kept in at one point of the movie. And the thing about Love Me Tender is it's public domain. So no one owns the rights to that music, which means my rendition, which is only in there for a split second, belongs to me as an arrangement.
Yeah. Oh, so you get royalties.
So I get royalties on that little bit of ukulele.
And that's like a couple how many seconds is it?
It's like a few seconds. It's like it really is someone. It's like really a minion on the edge of this snow slope going trying to get everyone's attention.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it. And how much royalties you get paid for that? Then?
Every quarter, I get 100 or 200 euros or something.
Yeah.
So it's just nice.
200 euros.
Wow, how much does somebody get for a song?
That's the Christmas gift.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's awesome.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know. I'd have to extrapolate on that. But if I look at because I also did a bit of piano in Despicable Me 2, right? And Despicable Me 2 was the soundtrack is done by Pharrell Williams.
Oh yeah.
So on that royalty check, which is the same deal as the ukulele one, on the royalty check it says the rights shared between Pharrell Williams, Alex Dowding, and Heitor Pereira, who's the composer.
Yeah.
So 33%.
But they have,
my little slice of 200 or 300 euros a year. And if you extrapolate into them doing the whole soundtrack, writing everything, you can start to imagine what kind of royalties you're getting on these songs.
Exactly. And how do they? I always mesmerized, but they just keep track of how many times the movie gets downloaded or played, and they have to.
Yeah. Every time I get the royalty check, it gets sent. I get emailed every single time Despicable Me 2 or Minions was played. On every channel, which country they give
you see
all
the
these
list.
graphs.
There's a PDF of 500 pages.
A
something.
PDF of all of Brazil, Sky TV, this amount of times. Yeah,
wow, that's, I wondered, they manage that so well, and they can't manage a vaccine the process in the country is. So, wow.
I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful. They manage my royalties really well, but they can't manage to get the vaccine in my grandmother's arm.
Exactly. Yeah, we're not. The computers are not ready. I don't know. We don't just give a stamp. Give her a stamp or something. Give her a paper. They get the vaccine. They get the paper.
And Alex got his royalties.
Oh, I just got an email. It's been played in Brazil for 5 minutes, and that's done. Wow. Yeah. No, just wondering. You're working on Undone 2 now, right?
So right now I'm not working on Undone 2. I'm working on a film called Apollo 10.5, A Space Age Childhood.
Yeah, can you extrapolate on that film
Yeah, I can do. Yeah, so this is the new Richard Linklater film, which is going to be out hopefully at the end of this year on Netflix.
It's a good title.
It's Apollo 10.5. I think it's loosely based on Richard Linklater's childhood, growing up in Austin, Texas, in the late '60s, and it's about a child's vision on the age of space travel. And what's the incredible thing about it is that, and I was kind of blown away when I first saw the first edit. And by the way, we shot this last February, so just before Corona hit in the States. We just managed to get it in the can.
Got lucky.
Just in time.
Yeah, that's good. That's lucky.
Got really lucky with it. Is that the narrative is a very strange, is a bit strange. And what Richard Linklater always does so well is he always does something a little bit different. If you think about sort of Boyhood, and you think about like the Before Sunset, all those kind of things, his narratives of his films are always a little bit different. Are you guys drinking Jack Daniels?
No, we're drinking
Captain Morgan.
Captain Morgan spiced.
Wow, God, I wish I had come into the studio now.
You're drinking English beer or
English beer? I'm drinking a Scottish brew. Other beers are available.
IPA.
Punk IPA. Well, cheers to that.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, Alex. Nice talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
So yeah.
So anyway, so this is Richard Linklater's film. It's rotoscope again, so you're going to recognize A Scanner Darkly. You're going to recognize Waking Life, and we're really using all of that experience and knowledge we have from Undone, building this pipeline.
And did they approach Submarine for this film, or? Yeah. So the animation director is Tommy Pallotta, who is the animation director on A Scanner Darkly and Waking Life.
Yeah.
But he was also the executive producer on Undone. Wow. So he's a friend of Submarine for a long time. So
he's involved in all those projects, and this is his new baby.
So his go is focusing on Undone 2. So we're making Undone 2 right now, and then Tommy is focusing on this space age film, and they're both happening at the same time.
Sounds really cool.
And I don't want to do politics or Corona, but the Corona is happening right now. Is it manageable? Is the work getting done, or is it a hassle?
Well, we had to sort of, at the beginning, we really had to sort of have some crisis meetings to work out how we were going to do all this remotely.
Yeah, exactly.
You always think of an animation studio of being all together because you pick up, you have meetings all together, but you pick up information around the coffee machine. Mm-hmm. You're walking past people's desks, you're looking over their shoulder, you're seeing what they're doing, you're learning from them.
Yeah. No, but you miss a lot of like little things, like you said, walking around the coffee corner, seeing each other's work on the desktop. Yeah. So,
and then there's all the boring technical stuff of like setting up the VPN connection so that everyone's working on a computer which is instantly accessible to the server, backing up, like all the really boring things. So it's a lot of overhead. And you then have to build that into the schedule and the budget, and it's a pain in the ass. And I just miss people, you know.
Yeah. It's the same here. But I remember talking to you a while back. I don't
For
know.
a pitch, yeah.
Yeah, for a pitch. You said, well, it was actually quite interesting because we sent them motion tracking suits and they recorded stuff at home. How did that play out?
Well, you know, the motion tracking suit went nowhere. Basically,
Okay.
it's just too complicated. And you know, the motion tracking thing was only going to get you able to plug the motion information into a 3D model. And can you imagine looking at Undone Season 1 and then looking at Undone Season 2, where you've gone from real moving humans to like 3D tracked humans?
Yeah.
It just wouldn't look
But
right.
it wouldn't work
So that
either. You know,
idea-
you sent like this motion tracking suit to somebody, and he just like you said, "Well, I'll send you a WeTransport with all the animations." And you look at the recording. You didn't took the suit off while you were taking a shit, man. You so, why take it off when you're banging your wife? You see all this like this is crap. We can't use this. Yeah, but that so there's a lot of things that didn't work remotely, but. You had to manage.
But what happened is, I mean, I think a lot of people did this in shooting. Is like, you know, companies very quickly got smart to the idea that you can package up a shooting gear, deliver it to an actor's house, and make it very foolproof and let them set it up.
Yeah,
we didn't go that route in the end, but we did set up things like perspex. We'd set up 2 actors in a studio, big bit of perspex between them,
exactly.
Acting. You know, in front of each other. All of Undone is shot in front of a green screen anyway. So if you get the people in there to set that up and then plan it so that the actors come in afterwards, and you can operate the cameras remotely.
Yeah, exactly. It is
It
manageable.
actually, I tell you what, it actually forced us to be much more organised.
Yeah, it is.
Which was really interesting. So the results we actually got. The technical results we actually got from the cameras, from the green screens, from the tracking information, we knew we had to be all over it, otherwise we would waste so much money.
Yeah.
Is we got amazing footage.
Yeah. Well, here to Corona at times.
Yeah, sometimes
gets us organized, man.
Yeah, but sometimes your weakness can be your strength, right? Yeah. So sometimes.
But you know, the movie you're working on now, it wouldn't have been possible if you hadn't finished the shots before February, right? So that's like a lucky.
And can you tell something about the story of the project you're working now, or is that all classified still?
Classified.
Yeah, it's a good question.
You don't know.
Well, as I said, I think I've already given you the kind of the overview, which is
of
like
the outline.
Yeah. You gave us
like the child's. The excitement which was happening in the late 60s about space travel, and then in the movie we mix like reality, which was sort of like what was going on in the world, with the sort of humdrum kind of sort of like suburban life in Austin in the late 60s, and it feels part documentary and it feels part fiction, which is a super interesting mix. I can't really tell you more than that.
Well, thank you. That's really awesome. I have a question for you, Alex. You know, because of the Brexit deal, of course, you're living now in Holland with your son, of course. Are we going to get to keep you in Holland, or is it difficult?
Well, as you quite rightly pointed out earlier, Britain has taken so long trying to leave the European Union. That it gave me enough time to have my new permanent residence permit in my possession.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So,
cool.
So you can't get rid of me now.
Oh, okay. So you're like an official Dutchman now.
We're stuck with you.
We're stuck with you.
I don't have citizenship, but I have permanent residence.
That's okay. That's a different thing.
Is that because you have a job here?
Son, right?
Yeah,
also.
yeah. It's about having a job for 5 years, I think,
Yeah.
And that's it, really. It's not whether I have a child or not is no.
That's not okay. So permanent.
Doesn't enter into it.
You're not married.
Keep somebody in Holland for marriage is like old school. It's like 90s stuff.
Yeah. But it does work though that way. Like if I was married and I hadn't worked here for 5 years or didn't have a job, then I could also have permanent residence. I think.
Hey, and a question I always ask on this this podcast or podcast. I don't know how you call it.
Did you say the podcast?
Yeah, it's with
Because of the
video.
Jesus,
Podcast.
I thought it was an art installation. I don't know.
We have to give it a good name. I don't like vodcast.
Podcast.
Yeah.
But I always ask the same question. But in an ideal world, everything is possible. The biggest budget in the world. What would you make?
What would you make?
I would direct a film adaptation of The Pearl by John Steinbeck.
Oh, that's pretty. You thought about that?
You thought about it. I have to think about it some more. You would what? Okay.
Have you guys have you read The Pearl by John Steinbeck?
No, I don't even know it. No.
It's a very beautiful short novella which Steinbeck wrote about the biggest pearl ever found in the world.
Okay.
And I think it's just such a beautiful lyrical parable that I fell in love with.
Yeah.
And I wrote the adaptation to it. I spent last year during the Corona times sitting down and deciding to write my first feature-length screenplay.
Oh wow, beautiful.
Because I'd never managed to actually complete a screenplay.
No.
So I thought that if I this story, which is a simple, lovely tale, which just lends itself to visual storytelling, visual, cerebral, poetic storytelling so well that I really have to be a bad writer if I can't do this.
It's about this, a search for the biggest pearl in the world.
It's about a very poor man and his wife who get themselves in trouble. They live in a very small brushwood village in Mexico in the 1950s. Their child becomes sick. Everything is against them, and against all odds, they find the biggest pearl in the world.
Okay, wow.
And what they think is going to become their savior, and lead them to amazing things, becomes their curse because of the people who want to get that pearl from them and who will do anything to get it from them. Like everything is rigged against them. It's a tragic, beautiful tale. It's Shakespearean in its scope.
So that's good. We have to read it.
I have one question left for you. Maybe Lucas has another question. But okay, you're working at Submarine right now, and you're having a good time. But how do you see yourself in a few years? Do you think that you want to go more in the direction of directing yourself, or you're happy where you're at, or?
Well, no, I don't see myself. I don't think I'd be a very good director, and I wouldn't wish that upon myself, being a director. To be honest, I think you have to make so many sort of crucial decisions about so many things, and that's just too much. I don't know. Sometimes I just look at things when I'm working with a really good director. I look at something, and if someone's asking the question, and I imagine I'm the director, my answer most of the time would be, I don't know. I really don't know. So you can't be a director if your main answer is I don't know.
But I think a lot of directors don't know either, but they just pretend they know.
Yeah, exactly.
They just say,
maybe that's the key.
What do you think, Alex?
I don't know.
The key. Yeah, that's where that ego comes in. Maybe I need to have that mentality I had when I was 25, getting off at the Gare du Nord Eurostar, arriving in Paris. I can do anything.
Yes.
I think
that's a good
spirit. I think when we started with our first animation studio, we were bold as fucking hell. We didn't care. We just did stuff.
You get more scared along the way, I think, and that's in some ways it's a good thing.
I don't know if that's true, Lucas. I don't think if you get scared, I think you have to, at some point in your life when you get older, you have to understand what your limitations are.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no shame.
You have to live up to your responsibilities.
There's no shame in it.
Yeah,
there's no shame. that's how you become happy when you're older. You go, this is me. I know what I can do. I know what I can't do. And now
This is me. I just don't know. I just don't.
I can't do shit.
It's okay. It's okay. I just don't know. I'm happy because I'm happy. No, but you seem happy. You seem happy. You seem happier than I
ever seen.
No, that's not true. The last time I saw you with some discussions about relationships and stuff. But then you seem happier now. I'm glad to see.
I think I've sort of like I was just saying, really, sort of like luxuriated into middle age.
Yeah, luxuriated.
It sounds terrible.
No,
saying
it
it
sounds
like
so
that,
good out of your British accent. Yeah, cool.
When I was still working with you guys at Zoho, I bought this house I'm sitting in now, and it was the best thing I ever did. It really gave me like roots in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And this is the place I've lived the longest since I left home.
Yeah,
really, in essence. And so having my son here,
your son here,
and having my roots here, and having my son here. When you probably what you're referring to is a time it was a difficult period of change in my life.
Yeah,
and I felt a bit adrift, and I didn't have any roots, and I really put them quite deep down into the ground now, and have a job that I can rely on, and I love it, and I live in this beautiful house, and I can. My favourite activity is just sort of pottering around the house, just not really knowing what I'm doing. Oh, that goes there.
Yeah. Nice.
No.
Oh, wow. I'm really glad. I'm really glad to hear. Yeah. Well, thank you for having us. No, that's not how you say it, right?
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah. And next on the podcast, I'm going
next on Agnes down the podcast.
Michael J. Fox next week on the podcast.
J. Fox, yes. Good to talk to you, Alex, and I hope we can get to do this maybe once more, but then live action.
And
I'd love to do that because I'd like to have some of that Captain Morgan next.
Thanks. Do you want to do the regards to your mom or something?
Let me think. Yes, I would like to send regards to my mother because she just turned 72 the other day.
72.
And I forgot to send her a birthday present because I'm a terrible son. But I did buy a belated birthday present, and by the time you hear this, Mother, it should have arrived in the post.
Okay.
And
Alex,
I also want to thank Frederick Liesau, who I mentioned earlier, for giving me a career of any sort in animation. And I'd also like to thank again Chris Renault for slapping that leather sofa as hard as he could, to teaching me how jokes work.
Yes.
That's it, really.
Thank you. All right, man.
So, but what I want to quickly say is, though, it's really beautiful to see you guys. You're right what you're saying, Ferry, about, you are two very different, beautiful individuals. Mm-hmm. You have different personalities. I enjoyed spending time with both of you so much. I really do miss you, actually. And it's so nice. And in fact, you're absolutely right. You are still very much friends. You're like a marriage. You're like a good example of a marriage.
Good example of a marriage.
Like chalk and cheese in a way, and it's beautiful to see. So I'm really happy that you guys are still going
really
strong.
nice to speak to you. Just off camera, Lucas and I looked at each other and said, "What a great guy Alex is."
Yeah, man,
you're such a great guy.
Yeah,
and,
we love you. We miss you too, man.
Yeah.
We miss having fun with you, having good discussions. So thank you for this conversation.
And hopefully we'll see you after the whole Corona shit. We'll see you here in the studio and. Maybe talk about your new
and come
project.
come over to Vase sometime as well.
Yeah,
You're definitely welcome.
We'd love to.
Be great.
Okay, man. Alex,
Alex.
see you later, man.
Peace out.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay.